Cynthia B says, good morning. Let me see what's happening on our WhatsApp platform now. Who's there? Well, good morning to you, Petlin, of course. I'm still waiting on my Farin. Great, good and awesome Father in heaven, I thank you for GBN and staff like God and bless them today and all of Grenada, Carriacou and pt2 Martinique. Be careful. Please say good morning to Bernadette Pete for a television platform. We've got a rebroadcast of last evening's television news. Stick and stay with us. We'll be right back. After this, we've got the news. Stick and stay with us.
Freedom is driven to pursue that passion that keeps you up at night and makes you smile in your sleep. Freedom is bold to embrace the possibilities that can open up your world and conquer new heights. Freedom is fabulous with bits and pieces that enhance the quality of your life. Freedom is what you do with the flexibility to change path or direction when you need to. Freedom breeds ambition and purpose while having loads of fun along the way. But most of all, freedom is well-deserved for the road traveled and the journey still to come. Unleash your freedom with Nexa Credit Union. Offer ends August 31st, 2023. Call us on 440-1354 or visit our website to pre-apply. Apply now. Freedom awaits.
Good evening. This is GBN's News at 7. The Meteorological Office at Point Salines is presently monitoring a low-pressure area. In one of its latest bulletins, the Met Office noted a broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave located about 469 miles east of Grenada. According to the office, while this system has not become significantly better organized since Sunday, some slow development remains possible during the next couple of days while it moves westward across the tropical Atlantic and into the eastern Caribbean Sea. Regardless of development, though, heavy rains and strong gusty winds are possible across portions of the Lesser Antilles during the next day or two. Now, environmental conditions are expected to become unfavorable for the development of this system by the middle of the week, but the system could bring some moderate to heavy showers, lightning, and thunder tonight and into tomorrow. A minor flooding and small-scale slides warning are also in effect. The Met Office will continue to monitor these systems and provide updates in a timely manner. Turn the other cheek and do not transgress the law. Those were the words of advice coming from a High Court judge, Madam Justice Paula Guilford, before handing down an 8-year sentence for the offense of maiming at the St. George's High Court on Monday. Nisha Paul has the details on Monday's sentencing at the St. George's High Court.
Madam Justice Paula Guilford handed down the sentence of 8 years, 7 months, 1 week, and 3 days to Devon Paris, a 39-year-old Golf Course St. George resident. Paris pleaded guilty to the offense of maiming in March, approximately 3 years after the early morning incident on January 4th, 2020, that left another villager nursing a severed lower left hand. The now convicted man told police that he used a cutlass to chop the victim after being stabbed by him in the back with a knife. According to the facts read out in court, the victim stabbed the now convicted man after he slapped him on the left side of his face. The two were good friends but had a confrontation over $20 the victim reportedly owed to the now convicted man. The matter was prosecuted by Crown Counsel Kristen Greenidge from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, and Paris was represented in court by attorney Jerry Edwin. The defense attorney expressed the view that we are seeing an increase in violent crimes simply because the young men want to take matters into their own hands.
Today, the judge sent a signal, another signal, that the court will treat seriously with those persons. In spite of claims of provocation, the court will sentence you to a long-term tenancy at Richmond Hill Prison for committing acts of violence. Whether you claim you retaliate, whether you claim you were provoked, the fact is, the law says if you have time to retreat, please, young men, stay step away. Contact the police. Because if you do react, Devon Paris is an example of how the court will handle these matters.
Paris faced a maximum penalty of 20 years for the offense of maiming. His attorney requested a non-custodial sentence. However, noting the seriousness of the offense, the court took a decision to impose a custodial sentence with conditions. In handing down the sentence, the court noted that the victim, who was 22 years old at the time of the violent altercation, is now unable to obtain employment in his field of electrical installation. As part of the sentence, Paris was also ordered to pay compensation in the sum of $4,000 to the virtual complainant within 1 year of the order, or serve an additional default sentence of 6 months.
The court has required Mr. Paris to pay $4,000 in compensation after the year and after 1 year, and to engage in rehabilitation for anger management. Quite appropriate in the circumstances.
Attorney Edwin issued the following reminder to the nation's populace amidst an increase in violent crimes in recent weeks.
The police, we must inform our young men and our community, are empowered to resolve issues of conflict so that violence does not become the final result. And
for GBN News, I'm Nisha Paul.
A 5-year, 11-month, and 21-day sentence was handed down to St. David resident Alan Thomas for manslaughter in connection with the death of 55-year-old Angus Blaisdell, also known as Snackett, in July of 2020. The sentence was handed down by High Court Judge Madam Justice Paula Guilford at the St. George's No. 1 High Court on Monday. We have more for you in this report.
The court determined that the culpability of Alan Thomas in causing the death of Mr. Blaisdell was minimal, and that he did not go to the scene with a weapon. The court determined that Mr. Thomas, though responsible for the death of Mr. Blaisdell, had provided sufficient evidence that his act was not premeditated. In other words, he did not intend to kill Mr. Blaisdell, and that he reacted when he was choked. He was sentenced to 5 years and 11 months.
Attorney Jerry Edwin represented the manslaughter convict in the matter, which was originally before retired High Court Judge Madam Justice Victoria Charles Clark at the St. George's No. 2 High Court. However, the matter concluded before Justice Paula Guilford, who handed down the sentence to Thomas at the St. George's No. 1 High Court on Monday. The 48-year-old, also known as Cabbage, was initially implicated on a non-capital murder charge following the stabbing death of 55-year-old Angus Blaisdell, also known as Snackett, at a shop in the community of Tabaid just over 3 years ago. The charge was subsequently reduced after the Crown agreed that based on the facts of the case, the violent act was not one of premeditation. Thomas, who was 45 years old at the time of the incident, pleaded guilty to the lesser offense of manslaughter in February. Attorney Edwin explained that his client and the deceased got into an argument over a fork and a spade that the victim claimed was in the possession of the now convicted man. According to the facts of the case, the now deceased man was seen angrily collaring the now convicted man outside the shop, who appeared calm at the time.
The facts are that the victim choked Alan Thomas, and Mr. Thomas reached for a knife that was nearby and inflicted a wound, a single deadly wound in the upper body, the chest area.
Edwin explained that his client was not aware that he had inflicted a fatal wound to a man he once called his friend, and was shocked at the whole ordeal.
Mr. Thomas was not aware that the blow he had inflicted with the knife that he found on the counter in the shop had caused the death of Mr. Blaisdell. The next day, when he was informed that Mr. Blaisdell has died, he was shocked, But then he immediately went to the police station and gave a full-throated response when asked what happened.
Autopsy results revealed that the victim died because of hypovolemic shock. The court found no aggravating factors in this case. Attorney Edwin asked the court to exercise mercy for his client, who faced a maximum penalty of life imprisonment for the offense of manslaughter.
The court started with a sentence of 12 years. But then, because of his guilty plea, he was given 1/4 reduction. Because of his character, the court reduced it further. He had spent 3 years and about 25 days on remand at Her Majesty's prison. That time was deducted from the sentence so that it ultimately came down to 5 years and 11 months. And he has to receive counseling for alcohol abuse, anger management during the time that he spends on Richmond Hill.
The 105th Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, or ECCB, has decided to replace the image of the late Queen Elizabeth II on the Eastern Caribbean currency. Incoming chairman of the ECCB Monetary Council, Minister for Finance in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Camilo Gonzalez, made the announcement.
We also considered the change of the Queen's image on the Eastern Caribbean currency. The Monetary Council approved the following: the replacement of the late Queen Elizabeth's image on the Eastern Caribbean currency, the use of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union logo on the currency as something subject to a process of public consultation, and that a consultation process on what the replacement image for the Queen should be should go on until December 31st of 2023. During this time, the public will be invited to comment on the proposal to replace the Queen's image with the Currency Union logo and to offer any other suggestions. And we agreed to make a final decision on the new image for the Eastern Caribbean currency by February of 2024.
Elizabeth II was Queen of the United Kingdom and other Commonwealth realms from February the 6th of 1952 until she died in 2022. The media fraternity is mourning the loss of one of its stalwarts and veteran journalist, Miss Beverly Sinclair. GBN's news desk has been in conversation with former colleagues who are saddened by her death. Details in this Christina John report.
Sinclair, who passed away on Saturday, was a former employee at Flow Community Channel 6 here on Island from around 2005 to 2017 and Chief Operations Officer of Island Media, a marketing and communication company. Former Cablevision CC6 colleague Sherian Noel said Ms. Sinclair contributed to her growth in media, describing her as a very passionate, fearless individual in terms of her approach to her work. Sinclair left an indelible mark on the media landscape here in Grenada and throughout the region, as she will be remembered for her astuteness and devotion to journalistic principles. Gail Purcell, another former colleague of Community Channel 6, reminisced on Sinclair's involvement in producing programs during her stint as director of CC6.
Beverly Sinclair's passing has really taken me by surprise, and I think many others. We are definitely saddened by her loss because it is an extreme loss for the media fraternity here in Grenada and I would say the region, because Beverly's work expanded beyond the borders of Grenada, having started here in Grenada with the Grenadian Voice and then joining us at Community Channel 6. Bev was a definite asset to the development of the programs and the program direction at CC6. Not a person who you often saw in front of the camera, but definitely someone whose work you would have been impacted by behind the camera. She's definitely someone with an expansive level of experience and thoughtfulness in her approach to work. Definitely a hard worker and a steadfast personality, and not easily swayed, professional in everything that she's done, and certainly stood for what she believed. And that's something that will be remembered by Bev, that her integrity and her steadfastness is something that she felt very strongly about, and she definitely modeled that in her work as well.
She will be missed, Purcell said.
As a journalist, she stood firmly on her principles. Bev's contribution to Grenada and to the media landscape, and to how she's mentored a number of younger and upcoming journalists who today are practicing in different fields in different parts in the region, will definitely leave an impact. That is her legacy, and I think she would be thrilled to know and see them thrive through the principles of media development and also integrity and holding that steadfast. She will be missed. Express extreme condolences to her daughter, whom I know they were very close, and I know this would be a difficult time for her family.
Christina John, GBN News.
Miss Sinclair also gave me my first job as a news anchor, and it was truly a wonderful mentor. Indeed, she will be greatly missed. An alternative arrangement is being made for vendors who await the reconstruction of their booths in front of the Esplanade Mall. This has become necessary as there is a slight delay in the commencement of the project. More in this report.
The managing body of the Esplanade Mall has made temporary arrangements for the 12 vendors who are now awaiting the reconstruction of the booths that were once their place of business. The dilapidated structure was removed in June after consultations with the vendors, informing them that more comfortable and modernized structures will be built for them. Property manager of the Esplanade Mall, Caroline Edwards, in a phone interview with the GBN newsroom, acknowledged that the vendors' only source of income may be the selling of their goods, and as such, a decision was made to set up the tent as a temporary arrangement.
We realized that the project is taking a little longer than anticipated. We anticipated that we would have been through with construction by the ending of this month. However, that is not happening as we planned. So what we have done so far is to purchase a couple tents with sidings. We have set those tents up on our property, within the gated area where they can trade in the meantime. They can apply their trade in the meantime. So far, it's about 4 persons that have been coming on a regular basis to sell. Most of the others are saying that they would wait.
Mrs. Edwards said the new arrangement comes as they are experiencing a slight delay in the start of construction because the plan submitted to the Planning and Development Authority is yet to be approved.
We have submitted through Apex the drawings to fiscal planning and are awaiting the final approval. I think the fiscal planning have meetings just once a month. We may have missed the first one, the last one. So that's what's taking a little longer than anticipated.
The property manager explained that while they are not sure when construction will start, it is estimated that it will take 6 weeks of work to be completed.
We anticipated that construction should take about 4 to 6 weeks to complete. We don't know now when it's going to start, but if it starts, let's say at the end of this month, it should be by sometime mid-September we should be finished. Bearing in mind that there are holidays in August.
For GBN News, I am Rena Pett Thomas reporting.
Over 80 persons in the hospitality sector benefited from a one-week training program organized by the Caribbean Hotel Tourism Association through the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association and other stakeholders. More in this report.
90